Hi everyone, welcome back to Sports Khabri. Hi Arnava, how are you doing? Um, there's been a lot of talk and chatter about India's potential participation in the Asian Games, which is coming up in September. There's a lot of confusion, and we're here to seek some clarity around the situation. First of all, Arnava, what is your take on the situation? What is happening, and why is the Indian team exactly facing so much trouble?
Well, hi, Rahul, and everyone who's watching and listening. The first thing is, I think all of us who are Indian football fans and who support Indian football would like the men's and the women's team to participate in the Asian Games. I think that's the most important thing. We speak more about the men's team, we speak less about the women's team. I think it's even more important for the women's team to participate in the Asian Games because they haven't got that number of international matches as the men's have gotten in the recent weeks and will get in the next few months before the Asian Cup. For the under 23s, that team hasn't played for quite a while. So therefore, that would be a good exposure for these boys. But on the other side, there are Government of India regulations in sports. Again, I often say that, a lot of these regulations don't make sense. They need to be reworked. They need to be relooked. We've discussed players of Indian origin as one of this, and this is another one of those. And it says that teams who want to participate and represent India in team sports at the Asian Games need to either be candidates to win a medal and ideally be top eight in Asia in their sport. Now, most Indian sports, when it comes to team sports, we don't qualify for that bracket, and that's a problem. And I'm a little surprised at especially the discussion that have been happening on social media on this, because it seems like a lot of people were or are not aware of what these rules and regulations are.
Yeah. I mean, it clearly the rules are what they are, and you can't really do much about it. But how much of a loss would it be, given the bigger context and the wider context, to Indian football to not be able to participate in the Asian Games and get some matches under their belt?
I think it's a big loss. As I said, I feel it's a bigger loss for the women than for the men's team. I would say, because the women's have not had that level of exposure as the men's have, and they have Olympic qualifiers coming up, tough Olympic qualifiers coming up. So for them, that would be really much needed exposure. So that's one. And on the other side, I said, I think for the under 23s exposure at that level, even if it's only three matches, those three matches are good matches to play, and good competition, because you will most probably have one of the big Asian sides in your group at least. So you'll have at least one really, really tough game. And many boys in the under 23s are potential players also in the first team, even though there are certain players missing, but we'll discuss it a little later. So therefore, the exposure part is, I think, very, very important. And the question, of course, is I also feel if you look at this team, there's a number of players who've been part of the under 17 World Cup squad 6 years ago, and the government with the FF spent a lot of time, money, and effort to prepare those boys. So this would have been a nice step to say, listen, we are continuing that program. We're trying to push these boys and try and make them better footballers, and that's a huge loss, I guess, for Indian football.
I don't know. At the moment, I mean, there was a lot of chatter yesterday, particularly. Suddenly, a lot of reports flying in that India could potentially go for the Asian Games. What is the situation at the moment, according to you, where you think things stand for Indian football?
We are recording this on a Sunday afternoon, so I have to say that first. So the status, as it seems at the moment, is, and it's changing. It's a fluid situation. I would have said on Friday, it looked very, very clear that we're not going. But the AFF and Kalyan Chaube, also as the joint secretary and acting CEO of the Indian Olympic Association, I think is trying his best to try and see if there are means and possibilities of taking Indian football to the Asian Games. So the efforts are on, but it's I don't even know if it's a 50-50, if it's a 70-20 or 70-30 or a 20-80 sort of situation. It's very fluid, and as again, Sunday afternoon, efforts are on. At the moment, we are not going. Let's be very clear on that. The status quo at the moment is India will not participate in the Asian Games football competition. But there are people who are trying to do something about this, and hopefully they will succeed, because, as I said, I think it's good exposure for both the men's and the women's teams to be part of the Asian Games.
Arnav, how much of an impact is all of this social media stuff going to have on the eventual decision? Igor Stimac writing that long letter, putting it on his social media, all of that. How much of an impact do you think that can have in altering the decision?
I don't want to burst a bubble, but I'm always skeptical about these sort of influences that Twitterati can have on decisions that are being taken by bureaucrats. And people will register this, but again, I go back a few weeks back. I was in Bangalore, watched the SAF Championship final. The next day, if you look at Twitter, how many messages there were from, anyone and everyone in India. Most celebrities tweeted about it, or posted something on Instagram on their football team. That's just a few weeks ago. So from that perspective, we've come from that, where you thought, okay, listen, Indian football is in the minds and in the hearts and the souls of a lot of people across India, and with Indians not only in India but around the world. Now we're talking about, it's like, please, 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 just let us go, to this competition. And we're it looks to me, it's a difficult one, because we're sort of back to square one, and sort of, we're in the begging position, sort of, that we should be allowed to go. And Indian football is ranked 18th in Asia. We're ranked 99th in the world. Again, that's a different discussion, how good or how bad we are. Look at where the ranking of Kuwait is, and look at how much of a fight Kuwait gave us in those two matches. And from that perspective, I would think social media has limited impact. And again, a letter from Igor Stimac will have a bigger impact. Potentially it could have a bigger impact. And it's good that Igor sent that letter. But I think the conversations in the background happening between the AFF, between the IOA, between the sports ministry, those are the ones that are crucial. That will decide if we are going to go or not going to go. So social media having this, great. I love it. I'm part of it myself. I've tweeted about it myself, but I doubt that all of us will have that much of an impact, because again, at the end, it's either the sports minister says thumb down, thumbs up, or a bureaucrat will sign the file and say "theek hai, chalo jao," or they will just simply say no. So therefore, I don't know how much they are following it. And therefore, yeah, that's a sad reality check. I mean, for some people who think that we have that much of an influence on decision being made by the government.
Should this work out in the end, and India, in the unlikely event, ends up going to participate in the Asian Games, what do you think the squad look? Or what do you make of the squad? I know the squad that's been reported is a lot of these under 23 boys will be going for the tournament. What have you made of it? Because I have a few takes on it. I'll tell you what I think about it. But like, what do you think about it?
See, I've looked at those supposedly 50 players that have been sent as a list. Got a number of players from the under 17 World Cup squad who are missing to me. Under 17 World Cup squad from 2017. I miss Dheeraj, I miss Anwar Ali, I miss Suresh, I miss Apuya in that squad. There are others that we could add to that. But still, it's a very talented squad. It's got a lot of players from reserve teams, or players who've been on the benches of ISL teams or I League players in that. Because on the other side, for example, Ajikson has been called up. Akash Mishra has been called up. Prabsukan Gill has been called up. So there are these big names. Gurkirat is there. Vikram Pratap is there. Ayush Chikara. These Mumbai City boys are there. Shiva Shakti is there. And or exciting talent. Suhail Bhatt at the moment, who is rocking the Kolkata Football League for Mohammedan super giant with their reserve team. Irfan Yadwad, was impressive with Bangalore United last season, now joining Chennai FC. So there are these players, Rohit Danu is someone would love to see, Abdul Rabe at Hyderabad. So a lot of these names, Isaac of Odisha, I can go on, we could go on through this whole list, or, but there are these bigger names that are missing, and it's an under 23 competition where normally you also allow three overage players. And there were reports this morning in newspapers that they're looking at Gurpreet, Sunil, and Sandesh being those three overage players, which is a very interesting one on one side. On the other side is, will it's a question also, is has this list been prepared in discussion with ISL teams? So have you left out the bigger names, so to say, uh, in the interest of the ISL? Because again, India is going to be playing a lot of games. On the other side, again, the report saying that you're going to pull in Gurpreet, Sandesh, and Sunil. If that happens, again, very interesting standpoint. So let's see who gets in and who doesn't. If India is going to the Asian Cup in the men's competition.
Fair enough. I don't know. I just think that if you are allowed these three senior players, I'd rather have the fairly younger ones rather than Sunil, Gurpreet, and Sandesh, who've already done it for India multiple times. It's probably the younger ones who need a little more exposure before the Asian Championship comes in January, and that's why I find it interesting that they've looked at Sunil Chhetri, Gurpreet, and Sandesh Jhingan. But anyways,
No,
should we make
I
it to the Asian? Yeah.
just to add to that, and you raise a very valid point. As much as I love my brother Sunil Chhetri to play, I think it would be important if this team goes to such a competition without Sunil, because we need
Yeah.
to slowly start transitioning into that phase potentially which is coming without having Sunil. So I think it's a good opportunity for the Gurkirats, for the Ayushas, for the Shiva Shaktis to get playing time. If Sunil is there, Sunil will play, right? So therefore, that is a question. Do I need to pull in a Gurpreet? Rather give a Prabsukan or whoever, Sachin Suresh, Vishal Yadav, all these boys, whoever is going to be the best one, a chance to play. So therefore, yes, bring in three overage players who give you a certain level of stability. But don't pull in the players who's going to be in positions where we could give the younger ones a chance in this competition. Or maybe even say, listen, let's even go into this competition without three overage players. Let's give these young boys a chance. Let this team build itself. And again, it's a question of how much time for preparation they will also get, right? So there's a lot of factors going into this tournament. If we're playing the Asian Games, is how well is this team prepared? How will they gel? Have they played in this formation at all? Yeah, a lot of questions actually remain.
Yeah. Last question, Arnava. If we make it and looking at the squad, what are your expectations and how do you see this entire thing, shaping up in the Asian Games?
See, for me, I think it's an easy one. I think it's about the exposure, and this
Yeah.
team will most probably not get too much of time to prepare. Again, we have the senior national team's topic, who's going to be playing in September as well in the Kings Cup, and then they've got October, they've got the Medica Cup. Some of these players will be involved. And again, that question will also be raised. If I was running an ISL team and I'm losing 4, 5, 6 of my young players, I'm just looking at Mumbai City, I'm looking at Hyderabad, I'm looking at Bengaluru, I'm looking at even Mohun Bagan Super Giants. It's a tough call. So therefore, it's going to be interesting how much of time this team will get to prepare. And going into the competition, will they get a week? Will they maybe get 2? Might they get 10 days? We don't know. And therefore, exposure is important. I think also to be at the Asian Games, because it's different, because you're going to be in an Asian Games village. The Asian Games and the Olympics are very, very special in this, because normally you stay in a hotel, you're secluded, you're on your own. Here you can mingle with people. I think that is also, from a human development standpoint, a huge opportunities for our boys.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, like Arnava mentioned, we're not going yet. We'll wait and see if things change and India ends up playing in the Asian Games. Thank you, Arnava, for your time. And well, that's about it, guys. Thanks. Tune in for our next episode.
Thanks a lot, guys, and always like, share, and subscribe Candid Football Conversations on Sports Khabri and Arun Foot.